Hi there, Galen here, sharing Unity Stamp Company stamps and dies. Today I have a set of Sympathy cards, and I'm going to step you through heat embossing, and specifically heat embossing with vellum on vellum cardstock. And this is going to be an easy way to get a set of Sympathy cards made to have on hand when you need them. It's always good to have them on hand, and this is an easy way to do two or more easily all at one time. And so I'm using the Unity stamps. One is called Vintage Poinsettia. It's a stamp. I'm also using My Condolences, Brody's Love, and dies that are scallops and rectangle nesting dies. And so I pre-trimmed the layers for the card. I used vellum cardstock. You want to make sure you're using a heat-resistant vellum or very thick quality vellum that will stand up to heat. And so on two pre-trimmed panels of vellum, I add a powder tool, which is, in this case, it's a powder tool. There's some anti-static pouches that work as well. Something that you want to do before you stamp and emboss is to use a powder tool of some sort to remove any excess powder that you don't want around your project. So you only want the embossing to stick to the stamp there. The stamp is stamped using an embossing ink. In this case, I used Versamark ink, and that is fine. There's other ones. There's Wow embossing powder, and there's lots of other brands of embossing ink. Anything that will stick to the stamp to make a stamp impression, and then we'll pick up embossing powder. Sometimes if you use pigment ink, it will do the same thing. So in this case, I'm using embossing ink, and then I go ahead and add the powder to it. You could see that I'm using white embossing powder. So this is going to be a softer look than embossing directly onto the dark cardstock. I wanted to make it a little softer. So I decided to go ahead and stamp and emboss on vellum, and then use the darker blue in the background for the card. And so you have a heat tool. You make sure it's on the highest setting, and then you just move that heat right over that embossing powder, and it will melt into this beautiful stamp image. Now I am using a poinsettia stamp, but it could be any floral stamp. I think it will pass for a floral design. It's not going to be colored like Christmas, so I think it will pass and be just fine. Any stamps that you have would work with this technique. Most any will. And so now I am making a topper. I pre-trimmed or pre-die cut a scalloped panel using the same rectangle set. And then I am just going to make it like a wonky shape at the top there and trim the top just with scissors at first, just to see if I can make a sentiment label from a die cut. And so that's what I'm doing, making my own shape there, like a wonky shape there. Trim off any excess edges, and then I'll use the paper trimmer to make that line straighter at the top later on. But then I go ahead and then do two of these toppers, a little bit similar, but maybe on a different side or a different angle. You can, the sky's the limit what you want to do there. I like it. Sometimes companies sell dies specifically for this purpose, but this is a way to use a die with an unintended use. So you can take your rectangle dies and make toppers out of them, sentiment panels really. And so that's what I'm doing, making sentiment panels. Again, I'm just trimming that scissor edge to make it more straight so that it can line up against the top of the card there. So now I am stamping using blue ink. I'm using two different sentiments from the two different kits there. I took a sentiment from each different kits. Anyway, I like to mix and match when I can. I have so many stamps, so I love to go in and grab other ones that I might have in my stash there. and, mix and match old and new together. That's one of my favorite things to do. And so now you go ahead. Now I did 3 passes with the stamping. I just show 1 pass here, but I did 3 passes with the embossing stamping and with the sentiment stamping. So now I am just seeing where the placement would work best. And then I just, on the top layer that's going to be covered up, I add some clear double-sided tape using the ATG applicator there. And then I just add a little bit of tape right behind the flower there. Just, you won't be able to see it on the front, but I just hide it on that stamping. And then I go ahead and add that panel right to the dark blue background panel. You'll see the clear tape there, but I'm going to cover it up with this topper. So the topper serves a couple of different purposes, and it works great with vellum to add something like a sentiment panel or sentiment topper. And then go ahead and add some double-sided flat tape with this. This card set requires no coloring, and it also is using just flat tape and glue. No foam tape is used in this case. I like to sometimes just have flat cards. It's easier to mail. Postage is less, and there's less damage potential in the mail. So I'm going to try to make flatter cards this year, I think. And this is the starting point here. So I go ahead and add some more double-sided tape behind that finished panel. Add that to the card base to finish. I do the same for both cards. And they're almost the same card, just a different sentiment and a different topper. I hope you like this and it inspires you. Please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share if you will, and leave comments. I would love to hear what you think. And have a wonderful day.